What? A mystery crime psychological thriller that brushes up against the line of horror. Let's talk about it. Jar of Hearts by Jennifer Hillier. Welcome to Surviving in Books, where no matter what life throws at us, we find a way to escape into a good read. So today we're going to talk about Jar of Hearts by Jennifer Hillier, and I'm going to start it off spoiler free, give my thoughts and things like that, and then we're going to dive deeper into the spoiler section. But I will make sure to let you guys know when that happens. So if you haven't read it, you can read the spoiler free part, see if it's for you, then pause, read the book, come back, and then join in with the discussion of the spoiler section of it, because I really have some questions and some thoughts, and I would love to hear what you guys think. And also, I just want to say that this is my first video on YouTube, so please bear with me. I'm trying to figure it all out, and I hope you like it. I do have some notes, so I will be referring to those throughout this video, and hopefully you don't mind that. But I want to make sure that I hit all the points that I wanted to hit, and without the notes, I tend to forget some things. So first, I just want to give an overall opinion about the book. I was getting a Law and Order SVU vibe, but we didn't have Benson. Well, we had Benson, but she was like a side character, and we mostly had Stabler. And then it also had like a sprinkle of Orange is the New Black in it. And so that's pretty much how I would sum up the vibe of it. Sorry, I had to go get something to hold in my hands because I didn't know what to do with them. So it takes place in the Seattle area, and the main characters are 3 teenagers plus 1, and I'll get to the other guy in a second. So the one teenager, Angela, is no longer with us when the story starts. She has been unalived. The second character is her best friend, Georgina, who is on trial for being a part of the reason that she's no longer with us. She's not being accused of doing it, but being accused of helping cover it up. And then the third is Kaiser, who was a police detective on the case, and back in high school was one of the friends. So Angela, Georgina, and Kaiser were 3 friends. And then there's also Calvin, who was Georgina's boyfriend. He was like 21, she was 16. And he is the one who is going to prison for actually being the one to do the deed to Angela. So that's your cast of characters. And that's really all you need to know. You can just read the book from there. Anything else, if I said anything else outside of that, then it would probably be too spoilery. But that's really all you need to know. And the story takes place, we start in the present tense, and then it goes back to their teenage years around the time that the infamous night happened. And we get the point of views of Georgina and Kaiser, both present and past. With that, that means that you will spend time in a 16-year-old's head, both Kaiser and Georgina. And I gotta be honest, I wasn't a huge fan of that. I have a 13-year-old. I would never want to be in her head with everything that's going on. So reading the 16-year-old version of her was kind of like when you watch a scary movie and you're screaming at the girl, like, don't go in there. What are you doing? Don't do that. Don't do that. That's pretty much how it felt in the flashbacks. Like, all the bad choices were made. If you could line up all the worst choices you could make, she would make all of them. So that was probably not my favorite. I get she needed to make those choices for the plot to go on, but it still was very uncomfortable for me. I enjoyed the mystery thriller aspect. The psychological part was a little bit disturbing for me. That's why I was saying it kind of borderlined on horror. But also, this is not my usual genre, so I just might be a wimp. I liked the crime of it and trying to solve what happened and the reveals as it went through. The ending where it all came together after the twists and turns, I think was all right. So I think I'm gonna give it 3.5 stars and 2 chili peppers for spice, but the spice is not necessarily spice that you like. So I would check the TWs before you read it. Spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. Now we're doing spoilers. This is the spoiler portion. If you have not finished this book, please pause and come back. If you have, then let's get on to it. I want to start the spoiler section with a quote all the way from chapter 27 because I think it is one of the themes that the author has throughout the book, and I will be referencing it throughout. So, this is in the court scene after the trial where Calvin's about to be escorted off to prison, and Kaiser and him have like a couple words together. So, this is Calvin talking. He says, "People like me shouldn't exist," the sweet bass strangler said, looking over his shoulder. "You hear me, Kaiser? People like me should not exist." And I will definitely be coming back to that quote throughout because I think that it's important. So at the very beginning of it, we find Georgina. She's a successful businesswoman, 14 years past the infamous night is what I'll keep calling it. And she is engaged. She has a successful career. She is living with her fiance and everything is great. I immediately start the story off feeling like I don't like Georgina. I don't like someone who did something and then kept it a secret for 14 years and is now getting arrested for it. I don't know, just being inside that person's mind and that happening, I couldn't feel any good feelings towards her. But then I was like, well, she was 16 at the time and she was being influenced by an older guy. So maybe I'm doing a little victim blaming here. And so I felt conflicted. I felt conflicted when we first met Georgina before she went off to prison. And I think I pretty much kept with that feeling of conflicted thoughts throughout most of the story. But she was an adult when she got arrested. So at some point, maybe you would think that her moral compass would have taken over and she would have done something. But then who knows what kind of psychological damage this whole thing has done. So I'm trying not to be too mean about it, but also WTF. I also found it interesting that her fiance found out exactly what she did in the courtroom. Maybe she's not allowed to talk about it because of her plea deal or something. I don't know, but I would think I would not want my fiance hearing me say these things for the first time. Maybe I tell you this before the courtroom and you go ahead and leave me without me doing it right here in front of everybody. Because that just, how jarring can that be? He had to have been completely blindsided by what her part in this was. And that to her seemed like the best way to do it. Again, I don't know if maybe she couldn't or not, but surely there had to have been a better way. And then there's a very interesting choice of words, and maybe you guys caught this too, but she says that she did not watch Calvin do the chopping. She used those words that she did not watch him, which we know is technically true. And when I read it for the first time, you think of it a certain way. And then towards the end, when you think back about it, you're like, okay, I see what you did there. Then we get to see a sweet moment between, well, I don't really know if it's sweet, but sweet as sweet could get considering the circumstances, between Kai and Georgina when he brings her the burgers or whatever and then lies to his face basically. But he says, you'll be out in 5 years. You'll be able to start a family, have children and all that. And in my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, right. But joke's on me, right? I mean, that was a very good breadcrumb that Jennifer put there for us. I want to jump forward again because what Dominic says almost towards the end of the book sums up exactly the feelings that I'm having about Georgina now. And when I read it, even though he's awful, I was like, yes, these are the exact words that I was thinking. And this seems like the perfect time to read that. So I'm going to cover up some of these words to kind of keep it from getting flagged on YouTube here. But he says, covering up her unalive was a mistake, Dominic says. Even if you unalived her, that might have been forgivable. But lying about it for so long, moving on with your life while her parents suffered, wondering what happened to their kid. I mean, that's a character issue. That's really the part that makes you a terrible person. Exactly. Again, I don't know if there is some psychological 16-year-old being swayed type deal, but that was the feelings that I was having. On top of all the POVs in Gio's head, she just felt cold to me. Like she, even in the teenage type years, I don't know, she just felt like distant. And I don't know if that was the writing or that was on purpose. Like we were supposed to feel a little weird about her the whole thing. Like being in the head of a 16-year-old, you would think would be this kind of happy, shallow at times, but very emotional at other times and sort of stuff like that. But she felt off to me. She felt off to me the whole time. Her feelings seemed like dulled, except she was pretty upset when she got kicked off the cheerleading team, and she was pretty upset with Kat. Again, I was wondering if maybe that was on purpose for us to be in this sort of weird space with Georgina. Even though we're in her head, we still feel kind of weird about her because we're watching her just bold-faced lie also, which being in a liar's head is just not my favorite thing. So all in all, I was just really uncomfortable. And then it's the total opposite for Kai. He just felt all warm and snuggly when I was in his POV. And I just felt bad for him for half the time, but then also like kind of wanted to shake some sense into him too. Like, bro, like move on, like do something else. Like, I guess he tried to move on, but like, are we really circling back after all this? It was just a little golden retriever-esque for me, and golden retriever dudes are really not my thing. The prison arc was an interesting choice. I don't really know why we needed that in the book, except for maybe for us to find a way for her to get a weapon for later, because without prison, she wouldn't have had one, and maybe to show us some depth of her character with the relationships that she formed with Kat. But I really could have done without most of those scenes. And I guess her being with the CO is like supposed to show us that she's okay with like using her body for convenience. I don't know. I just the whole prison thing, I was just, when it was done, I was like, well, I guess that was that. And then we have the infamous night. We're back in a flashback to it. And if she had just stayed with Kai after he was finished shooting his shot, like, and they were in that closet or laundry room or wherever they were, like, none of this would have happened. But of course, that's just something that the author's dangling for us to see, that she could have done a different move here, but she didn't. Another moment for us to be screaming, "What are you doing?" So her, Georgina, and Angela end up at Calvin's, and this was an interesting thing for me because Calvin, up until this point, seemed very into Georgina, possessive, monopolizing of her time, like abusive mentally and physically and all of those things. But when she shows up with her girlfriend, both of them drunk in short dresses, he is like team threesome now. And I don't know if part of this was his issue with Angela about how he probably has like this attraction to her, but like doesn't like the kind of person she is, and probably is like disgusted at the fact that he has an attraction to her. And then also he's 21, so what 21-year-old dude isn't going to be like, oh, this is possibly a threesome here, you know? And then he doubled down on the alcohol for Georgina and gives her this orange juice and vodka drink to make her even more drunk, which is like he's really trying to get this threesome going. I don't know. It seemed a little off-brand for me for him up until now, but I don't know. Maybe that was because we were supposed to see him like switching this light switch. Like he had had these breadcrumbs up until now about his character and how he's like not right and has like these violent tendencies. And then now maybe he had it sort of in check, and then now this situation presents itself and he now is like all into that other side of him. It could be that, but when he was like all about the three of them, I was like a little thrown off by that. But then I was also like, well, he is 21 and he's a boy. So I don't know. What did you guys think about that whole scene? Like, were you buying it? Did you think it made complete sense, or did it feel like a little off, like a little bit of like plot convenience? When Georgina wakes up to, you know, what's going on, and then Angela like starts screaming that she's going to call the cops, I totally buy Calvin snapping in that moment. Like that seems on brand. Like her screaming, not shutting up, and things like that, and then him, the rage overtaking him, and he does what he does. But I am curious as to how he thought of the whole belt thing. Is that something he was like fantasizing about, or he read about, or he saw? I don't know. I just feel like if it were a spur of the moment type thing, I don't know if someone thinks to just like whip off their belt to help. That definitely had to been percolating his brain, right? Then when it's all said and done, and he looks at Georgina and he says, "Don't make me hurt you too." I felt like that was the key that made all of it make sense. Like why she did what she did, why she stayed along, why she didn't say anything, because she was afraid, because he threatened her and she had witnessed what he did. And that was a very real threat. So I was like, okay, now I've got something to hold on to that makes it make sense, that makes me see Geo in a little bit of a different light, and definitely part of the victim thing. But then we get more info, and she was the one who decided to do the chopping. So right when you're like, okay, I get this. This makes sense. You're a victim in this. We get that. And it completely grays it all over again. We were gray. It started clearing up. And then now we're gray again. Like, how does someone even come up with that? Like, if you're in this moment and you're doing this horrible thing that you don't want to do, and you're scared for your life because you're having to do it, you would come up with options to help it go better? Like, no, I would probably be just like, well, what do you want to do? Well, what do you want to do? And then hoping that like we get caught. Not suddenly becoming some mastermind, and then she's able to do what he can't even do because it's so just horrible. I'm like, who is this girl? I mean, when I read that, my mouth floor. I couldn't believe it. I was like speechless. I was like, what? I mean, this girl ain't right, dead ass. Like, she's not right, right? I mean, like, can we now agree on that? And that explains the "you're welcome" note that Calvin slipped to her towards the beginning in the courtroom that she like swallowed to hide the evidence. Because he totally took the fall for that, even though it was completely her idea. Not completely her idea, because, you know, he did what he did before, but that aspect of it was her idea. And she was the one who did it, but he took the fall. And while we're talking about the note, like, let's just list the things that she's lied to Kai about. She lied about that note. She, I guess, lied by omission about having a son. She lied about what actually happened that night. And he knows, the thing is, he knows that she's hiding stuff and that she's lying about stuff, but he's still like, I guess he wants her to go to prison, but then when she's done, he's like right there. I mean, golden retriever dude, man. Like, I just can't. And we have, I want to read this Kaiser quote. And he says, she finally like is doing the right thing and like saying, "I'm a horrible person, Kai. Like, do you understand that I am a horrible person?" And then he says, or she's not, "I'm a horrible person." She says, "I've done terrible things. I'm not a good person. Basically, I'm a horrible person." And he says, "I know," Kaiser says, "I know, but you're all I can see, Georgina. You're all I could ever see." Which is so sweet and so messed up equally at the same time. I mean, I guess the heart wants what it wants. So then, after the infamous night, Calvin convinces Geo not to say anything. He does what he does to her against her will, and then he leaves town. His eyes are different. He's got like that inner dark passenger that's been released that she says used to be kind of hidden in the back that would come and go, and is just like out and ready for life right now. He's like a changed guy from what's gone down. And then after this, because it's a horrible night for her again, for different reasons, she finally sees him and their relationship for what it was. And that is, I think that might be my final quote for this. But I love you, Calvin said. That hasn't changed. You could come with me. The words made her stomach churn. Whatever he felt for her, it couldn't be how love was supposed to feel. What they had was something effed up, something poisonous, something that would unalive her if she didn't get as far away from it as possible. So light bulb moment. She has come to terms with it after everything that's gone on. And this is before he does what he does to her. But she is like, this is a bad person. Our relationship was terrible. This is not good. So she has that light bulb moment that I'm happy that she has, although it's kind of a day late and a dollar short. So then he goes off and he does his Sweet Bay strangler thing, and then, but keeps them intact, and then ends up, going to prison for it. Then he escapes, and I don't know, did his monster side of him, was he able to keep it in check because he was afraid of getting caught and stopped doing that? Or were they just not found? Because after that, it just seemed like he was having hookups with people and leaving a string of children, which is an odd thing for a serial unaliver, usually in a story, that they just stop unaliving people. So I thought that was kind of weird. But again, maybe he just got better at covering it up, but he seemed to have relationships with people, even though he would leave. So that's a big question mark for me. What did you guys think about that? Please let me know in the comments. Then we enter the pregnancy with Dominic. And along with that, with one of Calvin's children, we get more of this sort of anecdotal evidence about this genetic component for people that should not exist. One of his daughters, Dominic, definitely have this darkness that Calvin had. And what in the world, Gio giving her kid to a couple just because they seemed fine without going through the proper channels? This was another 16-year-old WTF moment. I don't understand that. But again, I guess we needed that for Dominic to become him for the plot and stuff like that. But moments like that, I feel are done to drive the plot, and they don't necessarily make sense to me, and they get to me. They crawl under my skin. I don't understand that. I mean, I guess a 16-year-old probably would do that because she's got no idea what she's doing, but isn't she supposed to have people helping her with this, helping her decide and say, no, we need to go through the proper channels, we need to vet people, we need to do all this stuff, rather than her just being yeah, I like you, you can have my baby. And then Dominic unaliving Calvin's other baby mamas and their babies, I didn't really understand that, because he says that it wasn't to get back at Calvin, it was to get back at Gio. But how does that make sense? Because he said they didn't deserve to have a mom when he didn't. But she has absolutely nothing to do with these women and their children. Zero. I mean, I guess she's definitely going to feel bad that it was done because of her, but I don't know. That was a stretch for me. And I understand that he likes cinnamon hearts too. He found out that Calvin likes them, and so he used the cinnamon heart lipstick. But how in the world did that cinnamon lipstick get made? That's a pretty heavy coincidence that the company Gio used to work for decided to make a lipstick called Cinnamon Heart. Did we get a closed loop on how that came about? Because it didn't seem to me that Dominic was some kind of mastermind that he could have got in a relationship with someone that worked there and like encouraged them to do it. Because I thought that that was Calvin. I thought Calvin did that. He seems like someone who could. He had the charisma and all of that. Like he could have gotten in a relationship with someone, got them to make the lipstick cinnamon heart because he knew what he was going to do with it. But when we found out Calvin had nothing to do with it, I was like, Dominic don't look like the kind of kid that can do that. So that was like a weird thing for me, and I didn't really make much sense of it. But again, please let me know if you found something in here that I didn't that makes sense. But then again, maybe it's not supposed to make that much sense because Dominic isn't supposed to exist. So she invites him to her house after looking him up on Facebook and like just like invites him in. And I mean, I guess if that's like your kid, then maybe, but that just seems a little risky. You have no idea how this kid has turned out. So even though she's not 16 anymore, we still want to shake her and scream, "What are you doing?" Then the end of this just goes from like crazy thriller to like really disturbing, messed up. Like what Dominic tries to do to Gio, I'm just like, I don't even understand what's happening here. But again, he shouldn't exist. So all of this craziness that he's doing is because he's not right. And then Calvin shows up, and I didn't have that on my bingo card. I mean, I know he was in the area, and I guess it makes sense that he would be watching out for her, but I didn't know that he would be that close, that he could see what was going on and like appear like that. The whole ending was like a little bizarre for me. And then the gun finally, the gun that we had like forever ago in the prison thing, comes back full circle. I was wondering when that was going to happen because otherwise what was the point? And then she unaliving both of them just seems like the best choice, I think, for the end of the story, because like you really don't want either one of them going to prison and getting out again and all of this stuff like that. So that seemed okay. That seemed fine. But then we fast forward and she's just like living her best life now. And I mean, yes, she's been through a lot. And so I can see that we probably want to see that she's okay and moving on. But the way she was written in this whole book was not in a way that made me connect with her in a way that I was just hoping that she would be okay. And I don't know why I felt that way. I feel like she was written in this really gray area where I was confused about my feelings and if she was a good person or not, like the entire book. But then at the end, she gets a good person's ending. Well, good with what can be expected with everything that's happening to her, has happened to her. But she gets like the best that could happen to her, and she gets Kaiser. So we spend this whole book like all weirded out about like, who is this person, everything like that. And then we get, well, she gets to live happily ever after. And so that's it. I guess she is like part hero, part victim, part monster. And like what she says about Dominic and what he did to the bodies, he didn't get that from his dad. He got that from her. So again, I enjoyed it for the most part. I felt weird throughout parts of it. That's why I landed on 3.5 stars, 2 chili peppers. Again, not spice that you kind of want to read, but so check your TWs. And I think it's definitely a good book to discuss. So I am really curious to know what you guys thought about it and any of the things that I said, if you agree or disagree, or if I missed things that you thought were important. Please let me know because I would love to hear that. And so before I go, I just want to leave you with never eat the fruit. I can't be the only one that's learned that the hard way.